An Introduction to Judaism. Judaism derives its name from one of the surviving 12 tribes of Israel. According to tradition, Abraham is the founding father of this religion, and it is from his second son, Isaac, that Judaism springs. Following Isaac, there are many patriarchs, from Jacob to Joseph to Moses to Joshua and eventually to King David, who is said to have established Jerusalem as the capital, and his son Solomon, who is credited with the building of the Temple of Jerusalem. When the Jewish kingdom split into two, the northern kingdom of 10 tribes and the southern kingdom of 2, it made it more vulnerable to attack. The first attack is said to have come to the north in 722 BCE by the Assyrians, wiping out the 10 tribes there, now to be called the 10 lost tribes. The southern kingdom met its match with the Babylonians in 586 BCE. At this time, the temple was destroyed, and it was destroyed a second time by the Romans in 70 CE, never to be rebuilt. Today, it is called the Wailing Wall. In the southern kingdom, the 2 Jewish tribes there, the tribe of Judah and the tribe of the Benjaminites, were made captive by the Babylonians. It is the tribe of Judah which eventually survived, and it is from this tribe that we get the name Jewish. While under Babylonian influence, several myths seep into Jewish lore. For instance, the Babylonian flood story called the Gilgamesh is almost identical to the Noah flood story in the Hebrew Scriptures. This illustrates to us how one meme from one tradition is copied into another. Some point out that the creation account of the Babylonians, called the Enuma Elish, is also similar to the Jewish story, the Jewish account of Genesis 1. As Jewish scribes developed their sacred stories, it seems that they were influenced by the memes in their local environment. At first, these stories were oral, but then later written down, perhaps in an attempt to document their significance in a time when their fate was questionable. Academics argue that the Hebrew Scriptures, or referred to as the Old Testament by Christians, has several authors. The first 5 books of the Hebrew Scriptures are called the Torah or the Pentateuch, and it is said to have 4 groups of authors: J, E, P, and D. J represents the writers who refer to God as Yahweh. Why it is called J is because Y is J in German. E represents the writers who refer to God as El Shaddai, or Elohim. P refers to the priestly writers who wrote the priestly rules and rituals as found in Leviticus, and D refers to the writers of Deuteronomy. It is argued by biblical scholars that Moses is not the author of the Torah, and how could he be if he dies in the middle of Deuteronomy? Biblical scholarship, which started in the 19th century, does more than question the authorship of the Torah or the Pentateuch. It questions the actual history of Judaism as it is portrayed. It asks questions like, did Abraham or Moses or David really exist, and what evidence is there that they did? Abraham dates 4,000 years ago, and when you go back that far in history, there is little evidence to verify existence. For instance, in the book of Exodus, it tells us of Moses and his heroic story to free the Jewish people from slavery in Egypt. But when we look at the Egyptian records at this time, it does not match this account. As for Moses' assistant Joshua conquering the Holy Land, eventually leading to the kingdom of Saul, David, and Solomon, some archaeologists contend that this never happened. Instead, some say it was an invention of a conquering, glorious past. Since Judaism concerns itself with what is called salvation history, that is, that God interacts in history with specific historical characters to save his people, studying the history of this religion becomes fair game. While there is not conclusive evidence one way or the other of the existence of many of these biblical characters in the Hebrew Scriptures, the searchlight on the unfoldment of Jewish history continues. In other words, the jury is still out. However it unfolded, one thing is clear: Judaism is a major world religion today with over 15 million adherents. There are several divisions within Judaism as well. First, there are Orthodox Jews who take the Bible literally. They follow a strict kosher diet, that is, no meat or dairy mixing. Meat must be from animals who have split hooves and chew their own cud. Fish must have scales and fins. And also the animal must suffer with very minimal suffering. Let me rephrase that. The animal must be slaughtered with minimal suffering. For the Orthodox Jew, the services are in Hebrew in centers called shoals under male rabbis, and males and females are separated in the service. Hasidic Jews are a sort of subdivision of this group. There is another branch in Judaism called conservative Jews. They work more with biblical scholarship. They follow a kosher diet, though perhaps not as strict as the Orthodox Jew. They have services in Hebrew with mostly male rabbis, but they allow men and women to sit together. Their buildings are called synagogues. There is another major branch in Judaism in America and is referred to as Reform Judaism. They worship in temples, they're much more liberal, they work with science and encourage scholarship, and for them the kosher diet is optional, and some are even vegetarian. Their services are in English, and females absolutely can be rabbis. Generally, one is recognized as Jewish through the maternal line, that is, if one's mother is Jewish, and this is understandable if one considers the amount of tribal war that occurred in Jewish history and possible rape and pillage that occurred. Reform Jews, however, embrace one as Jewish if either parent, mother or father, is Jewish. There is also a mystical branch of Judaism called the Kabbalist, which developed in the 16th century and is still strong today, with a major center in LA. One significant group within Judaism is the non-religious Jews. In this case, demarcating one as Jewish is less about religion and more about ethnicity. In this category, you find somebody like Albert Einstein. While he identified himself as Jewish, he was indeed a strict atheist. Einstein, who supported the Zionist movement to return Jews to their homeland since their departure 2,000 years ago under Roman rule, was asked to be president of the newly formed country in the 1940s called Israel, and he declined this offer, claiming to be a scientist and not a politician. Today, with Palestinians displaced and Jews living in what they now feel is the rightful land from their ancestors, the Palestinian-Jewish conflict continues. I end this presentation with the Jewish greeting meaning peace. Shalom. Namaste.